But welcome everyone. My name is Paige Anderson. I'm one of the psychology undergraduate advisors, and we're super excited to welcome you all to our psychology department. I remember being an incoming frosh. Kind of a cool thing about all four of your staff advisors in the psych department is that we're all alums. So we'll be excited to share with you in appointments about our student experiences and things like that. And if you have any questions, so we're all kind of diehard banana slugs. I'm literally wearing a shirt with a banana slug on it. So I'm super excited to have you all here this morning. And we'll get started here. All right, so some brief introductions. Again, my name is Paige. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of your psychology undergraduate advisors, also an alum of UCSC. I was class of 2021, and I studied literature and education. And I'm super excited to be with all of you today. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Julia.
Hi everyone, I'm Julia Wanlin. I use she, her pronouns. Like Paige said, I'm also one of the undergraduate advisors for the psych department, as well as a alum from the psych department. And it's nice to see you all. I'll pass it over to Ryan.
Hi everyone, it's good to see you. My name is Ryan, use he, him pronouns. I'm also a staff advisor, former psych alum. Look forward to getting to know you over the next several years. I'll pass it to Becca.
Hi everyone, my name is Rebecca or Rebecca, either one is fine. I use she, her pronouns, and like my colleagues, I'm also an alum of UCSC and of the psych department, and an undergraduate advisor, and I'm really excited to get to know you guys over the next few years. Thanks for being here today, and I will pass it back to Paige.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And also on this slide, we have Wendy and Carrie. So Wendy is our undergraduate program coordinator and assistant manager. She's also our supervisor. She won't be in this session today, but she is a big part of our team, and you all will get to meet her very soon in our Welcome Week presentations right at the beginning of fall. And then Carrie is our field study director. Field study is a really cool internship program you can get involved in, and you'll be connecting with her later as well. I'll also mention you all are more than welcome to put questions in the chat. We're going to hold off on if you all want to raise your hand and ask questions. We'll save that till the end of the Q&A, but feel free to drop questions in the chat throughout and we'll do our best to answer those as we go. Awesome. So we're going to get started here. We'll be sending you all these slides and this session is also being recorded. So please don't feel like you have to remember all this. College is a lot of information. So we're just going to go over some general stuff and let us know if you have questions. So kind of the way UCSC is set up is we kind of have a two-tiered advising system. So what that means, you all have your residential college affiliation. For example, I was a Stevenson College affiliate. So I had my Stevenson College advisors. And this is just a little list of the things they cover. Kind of main takeaway is they're kind of the people you go to for GE or general education requirements. Any questions revolving those, if you need to take a leave of absence, specific forms, things that aren't major specific. And then you have us, your major advisors. So that's anything if you're proposed psychology or cognitive science, if you're looking to add a second major in psychology or cognitive science, you would come to us. And we're the major specific people. We're also the ones that will create your assigned academic plan that will reflect those major requirements. Awesome. So kind of delving in a little bit more into what we can help you with. There's our faces again. They're plastered all over the website, so hopefully you won't forget who we are. But more specifically, those signed academic plans is kind of a big part of our role. I know we've met with some of you before that have joined the sessions, so you may already have a plan, you may not. Don't feel like you're behind if you don't have one. So we'll be talking you through the specific requirements and what those entail. We'll also talk about if you're interested in studying abroad, that's more of Julia's purview. We won't go over a ton of that today, but she is the person you can go to with questions regarding that. Sometimes there'll be situations where you want to submit a course substitution. Again, we don't need to get into the specifics of that, but all that logistical stuff we handle. And then also those experiential learning opportunities, and that term can encapsulate a lot of things. So that's internships, research, that's volunteering, that's extracurriculars. Maybe you're in a club on campus in a leadership role. But specifically in our department, we have field study, which is our internship program, which is really cool, which is managed by Carrie Walker, who I mentioned earlier. We also have research opportunities as well. We have many different active labs in the psychology department, and it is very common for undergraduate students to get involved in research experience. And then lastly, we do offer some kind of basic graduate school preparation advice. That isn't our major role, but we're more than happy to kind of help you through that process and think about what you need to bring to the table. So whether that's adding more to your resume, whether that's networking more with faculty, things like that. Awesome. And then another really important part of our team is our peer advising team. So these are current students. You'll get to meet them in the fall. And they work in our office. It's actually a field study placement. So I mentioned that internship. So one of them, it's really the only one that's on campus, which is kind of cool. But we get to work with current students. So they offer a unique perspective because they're your equals and they're still taking their courses, still grinding through their classes. So they're a great resource as well. So we have a lot of drop-in hours throughout the week and the fall, hosted by our peer advisors. So they can do things like grad checks, making sure you're on track. Is there anything I'm missing? And they can also help you during the height of enrollment, things like that, when things may be getting a little bit stressful and you're thinking about what classes do I need? Maybe this class is full. Is there a backup? Those types of questions. Awesome. So this is a little bit of an overview here. So we're going to talk about a little bit more about the specifics of our majors in our department. We're going to talk about our major requirements. Again, please don't feel like you have to remember all this. It's a lot of information. We had to learn all of this at one point. So feel free if you want to take notes, but you have all the slides that we'll provide you. We'll be talking enrollment. What does that entail? I know some of you reached out already, which is awesome, but it is a very confusing process. So we want to walk you all through it. We're going to talk about campus student resources that many students don't even know that are available, or maybe they're a little bit apprehensive to approach. And we're going to talk a little bit more about our department, where our office is located, and our services. All right. And you'll notice on some of these slides, we do have some advice from our class of 2026. So you're more than welcome on your own time to take a look back at those. Awesome. So kind of getting into the specifics here. So in our department, we offer two majors, psychology and cognitive science. Psychology is going to be the study of the human mind, specifically development, its functions, looking at behavior in a certain context. Cognitive science is a little bit different in that it offers a little bit more of an interdisciplinary context. And interdisciplinary basically means that you might be dipping into some different departments. So that could be linguistics, philosophy, anthropology, computer science, amongst others. So you're looking at things like thought, memory, perception, language, so on and so forth. These are our main subfields in psychology. Even with cognitive science, the upper division courses or anything 100 or above that you'll be taking are titled psychology courses. This is where you're going to be pulling from. So developmental, you'll see these course numbers. This is for ease of what the heck is a developmental course? Well, I know 101 to 119 is a developmental course, so on and so forth. We have cognitive, social, clinical, methods, and independent study. And within that independent study are those field study and research opportunities I mentioned. Awesome. So here's a little bit of a roadmap of Sammy the Slug making his way through forest. Very abstract representation of our actual campus. So you're going to have your GE requirements. Those are your best friend, your first year especially. So if you're like, what do I enroll in? GE should be the first thing you're thinking about. That and your core course. If you got those, you're pretty much set. And maybe writing one if you're placed into it. Next, we'll have major requirements kind of placed sporadically throughout. Do not feel like you have to take a major requirement in your first quarter. I cannot emphasize that enough. I know it feels like, oh, duh, I need to be in a psych course. It's confusing, but that will not inhibit your progress, and a GE and a major requirement are equally as valuable. We're going to talk about major declaration and what does that entail, because being a proposed major kind of just sorts you into a group, hence why you all are here today, because you've received our outreach. We're going to talk about the Psych 100 course and why that's a foundational important course. We're going to talk about upper divisions, anything 100 or above when we're looking at course numbers. And then way later on, we'll have something called a senior seminar, which is an exit requirement. And then yippee, there's Sammy the Slug graduating. And that's our goal, is to get you all to the finish line. Awesome. And I'm going to pass it over to Julia here to talk a little bit more about our majors.
Thank you. So now Rebecca and I are going to talk about our majors, their requirements, and all the policies that are relevant to you. Next slide, please. Okay, so you are all entering UCSC as either a proposed psychology or cognitive science major. Proposing a major just means that you indicated an interest in that major. Like Paige said, eventually you'll need to declare your major, and you can do that once you complete the set of major declaration requirements, which I'll go over in the next couple slides. The instructions on how to declare your major are linked onto this slide. It's a pretty simple process that involves submitting a form through your My UCSC portal. Next slide, please. Okay, so for psychology, there are three major declaration requirements, which are pre-calculus, introduction to psychology, and statistics. As you can see on the slide, each requirement can be satisfied through a few different ways. For the math or pre-calculus requirement, we encourage that you all take the ALEKS Math Placement exam, which you should have learned about in the orientation course. We recommend doing that as soon as possible because your ALEKS license will expire after your first year at UCSC. If you earn an ALEKS Math Placement score of 300 or higher, you will test out of the math requirement and not need to take a pre-calculus course at UCSC. You can also take the ALEKS Math Placement exam up to 3 times to try to improve your score. So if you don't get the 300 on the first try, we recommend taking it again. Usually students improve their score after each attempt. And then another way to test out of the math requirement would be through a qualifying score on the AP Pre-Calculus or AP Calculus exam. And if you don't test out of the math requirement through ALEKS, AP scores, community college courses, or anything like that, it's totally fine. You just have to take a pre-calculus course at UCSC to satisfy the math requirement, and a grade of C or higher in one of those courses is required. For Psych 1, which is Introduction to Psychology, all psych majors have to take this course. You can test out of it through an AP score of 4 or higher on the AP Psychology test. But if you don't test out of it, you just have to take Psych 1 at UCSC and earn a B- or higher in that class. And then for statistics, there's a few different classes that you can take, which are listed on the slide. And just like Psych 1, a grade of B- or higher is required for statistics. AP exams with qualifying scores or community college courses can also be equivalents to statistics at UCSC. If you're ever in a scenario where you don't get that B- or higher for Psych 1 or statistics, you can always reach out to us and we can help you figure out an alternative to be able to declare the psychology major. Next slide, please. Okay, so cognitive science has some slightly different major declaration requirements. They include calculus, programming, statistics, and Psych 20, which is cognition fundamental theories. Cognitive science students are expected to know a slightly higher level of math compared to psych students, which is why calculus is required rather than just pre-calculus. You may have tested out of calculus with a qualifying AP calculus exam score. The ALEKS Math Placement exam will not test you out of calculus, but we still recommend taking it because you may be able to test out of pre-calculus and go straight into calculus. As a very interdisciplinary major, like Paige said earlier, cognitive science also has a programming requirement that can be satisfied through a few different courses that are listed on the slide. And there's also a CSE 20 test out exam that some students opt to take. And if you pass that test, you don't have to take a programming class at UCSC for that requirement. The statistics requirement for cognitive science can be satisfied through the same courses or AP test scores as the psychology major. For Psych 20, that's a specific course that you have to take. It's an introduction to cognitive psychology. And then for the grade requirement for cognitive science, it's slightly different where each requirement doesn't have a specific grade requirement, but within these 4 courses, you have to earn a GPA of 2.8 or higher, which is about a B or B- average. Next slide, please. Okay, so the major declaration policy, this basically tells you when you need to declare your major by. So you will need to declare psychology or cognitive science by the end of your 6th quarter, which is the end of your 2nd year at UCSC, so spring 2028. This means that you will need to submit your petition to declare by the deadline in your 6th quarter and complete your major declaration requirements before your 6th quarter or have some of them in progress during your 6th quarter. This applies to both students who are interested in switching into our majors or adding psychology or cognitive science as a second major as well. You are able to declare your major as soon as you've satisfied the major declaration requirements that I just went over. So it might be possible for you to declare before your sixth quarter, but the sixth quarter is the deadline. If you need to go beyond that, an appeal would be necessary. If you are planning to double major, then we recommend that you make sure to communicate with both us and the major advisors for the other department you're interested in, just to make sure that you are complying with both majors' policies. And I think with that, I will pass it over to Rebecca to go over some more major requirements.
Okay, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, awesome. I just got a little notification that my internet is unstable, so feel free to stop me if I get a little shaky. Okay, so Julia talked about a lot of the lower division requirements, especially the major declaration requirements. I'll be talking about mostly upper division requirements, but some lower division ones as well. So for the psychology major, there are two concentrations you can choose between. These are general psychology and intensive psychology. The difference between them is that general psychology requires 8 upper division courses, while intensive psychology requires 11 upper division courses. And this slide lists the requirements for general psychology. So in addition to the 3 requirements needed to declare the major, there are also 2 other lower division courses. These are Psych 10, which is Introduction to Developmental Psychology, and Psych 20, which is Cognition Fundamental Theories. So even though these are lower division courses, they're not major declaration courses. So you don't necessarily need to complete Psych 10 and Psych 20 by the end of your second year. Though the sooner you can take them, the better, because they're foundational for some upper division courses. So, as for the upper division requirements, all psychology majors must take Psych 100 at UCSC, which is a research methods class. You'll have to take this class before you can take all of your other upper division psych courses, so it's an important one to try to prioritize, but it requires a few prerequisite courses, one of which is writing too, so it's important to be also working on your writing courses. And your other upper division requirements include 1 developmental course, 1 cognitive course, and 1 social course, plus 3 additional upper division courses from 3 different subfields, which are from 3 different subfields out of the 6 that Paige talked about earlier. And one of these 6 courses should also be a senior seminar, which I'll talk about more in a minute. And in addition to the upper division psychology coursework, you'll also need to take one last course, which is an upper division course from an approved major outside of the psychology department. That's that upper division outside course that's listed. And most of the approved other majors are in the humanities or social sciences division. So they're related to psychology and will just like broaden your understanding of interdisciplinary topics. Okay, next slide, please. Awesome, thank you. Oh, and to answer the question in the chat real quick, the research methods class does count as one of the 8 upper division courses. Good question. Okay, so all of the general psych requirements are also intensive psych requirements, plus these 3 additional courses that are listed here. So one of these is an advanced research methods course, which is either Psych 181, psychological data analysis, or Psych 182, qualitative research methods. And then you would be required to do 2 quarters of independent study, which could be field study, research, or senior thesis. All of these are great opportunities for students looking for more hands-on experience. And also, any of these additional requirements can be completed by the general psych concentration. They're just not required. So, like, you can still do field study, for example, or take psychological data analysis as a general psych major. You just don't have to. And you'll be prompted to choose a concentration when declaring your major, but you can always change it later. We don't really have a limit on changing your concentration at any point, except that you'll have to do it before you like apply to graduate. And you want to make sure you have enough time to complete the requirements for whichever concentration you choose. Also, no matter which concentration you choose, your diploma will just be a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. The concentration isn't actually listed on your like final degree, but it would be listed on your transcripts. And if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So for cognitive science, The four courses that we mentioned before as requirements to declare are the only four specific lower division courses you'll need to take for the major, although you'll have some other options that you can take if you want. And similar to psychology students, after completing those courses, you'll need to take Psych 100, which is again a research methods class, before you can take your other upper division coursework. The other upper division courses includes a set of cognitive core requirements, which entail taking three classes out of the like four main areas, which are visual and spatial cognition slash perception, neuroscience, language, and memory. In addition to that, you're also required to take three cognitive electives, which allow for more flexibility since you can choose from a longer list. We have some developmental courses on there, some social courses. So yeah, you get some specific cognitive courses and then some that kind of broaden your understanding of the field. Um, and again, one of these courses should be a senior seminar, one of the cognitive electives specifically for cognitive science. Also, as an interdisciplinary major, you'll have the set of interdisciplinary elective requirements that you'll need to take. In the past, we've required that students select an emphasis group to focus on, but we recently implemented a catalog change that allows you to select any from our broad list, which entails evolution courses, AI and human-computer interaction courses, linguistics courses, and philosophy courses. So you will need to take four of these courses, and one of these will need to be an upper division course, and then the other three can be lower division or upper division. It's kind of up to you. And you could also potentially do four lower division interdisciplinary electives, but then you'd be required to add an additional cognitive science elective, which is an upper division psych course from the list of cognitive science electives, in order to meet the minimum number of required upper division courses. And the list of major requirements and worksheets can also be found on our website, so you'll be able to like look at all the full lists there. And you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so we've mentioned the senior seminar requirement for both cognitive science and psychology. And to go into a bit more detail, this requirement is also tied to your general education requirements, specifically the DC, which is disciplinary communication requirement. It's important to note that registration for senior seminars is different than registration for our other courses, because to enroll in a senior seminar, you'll have to fill out this thing called the Senior Seminar Permission Code Survey, which we email out prior to enrollment for the quarter that you want to take your senior seminar. And you'll get the survey once you have hit 135 credits. So it's likely that you won't be receiving this survey for a little while, so you don't need to worry about this too much right now. But please keep in mind that the senior seminar is not an additional course requirement. It can be fulfilled through one of your pre-existing requirements. So, for psychology, for general psychology, you've got 8 upper division requirements. The senior seminar isn't a 9th one. You can complete it through like a social course that's also a senior seminar, for example. Okay, and if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, our experiential learning opportunities include participating in our field study program, in research, or in a senior thesis. So the field study program is basically a program that allows students to apply to get connected with different internship opportunities that provide more hands-on experience in areas related to psychology, such as being a mental health worker, teacher's aide, advocate for survivors of abuse, and more. The specific like internship opportunities that you can get kind of vary throughout like each quarter. So the different placements will depend on the quarter that you would apply to join field study. And then the research option entails getting connected with a research lab opportunity on campus and spending about like 12 to 15 hours working in that lab per week. And each lab is kind of at a different point in the research process. So some will be collecting data, some will be analyzing data, but regardless of where they are, it's a really valuable experience. And lastly, the senior thesis takes research a bit further, and it's an opportunity for you to conduct your own research with the guidance of a faculty member. So, any psychology or cognitive science student can participate in any of these opportunities, but the intensive psychology students are required to participate in them, in one of them. And more information about these educational opportunities is posted on the website, and we encourage you to come speak to a staff advisor or peer advisor to learn more about them and start planning your schedule to include these in future years, because most people participate in field study research or their senior thesis in their junior or senior year. So this is a little bit further down the line as well. And with that, I will pass it over to Ryan for enrollment and academic planning.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, so I get to talk about enrollment. So the first thing I'll point out is that this particular quarter, this first quarter you're enrolling in, is going to be a little different than any other because you can kind of enroll in all the classes that you need to right away. For this first quarter, as mentioned a few times before, don't feel like you have to enroll in a psych class. You're more than welcome to try to get into Psych 1, but don't feel like you have to. You can use this as an opportunity to sort of explore the campus, pick some comfortable classes that are hopefully easy or interesting or fun sounding, and take it easy this first quarter. Figure out, where you live, figure out how to navigate the campus, how to get around on the buses, how to get to town, to buy groceries, all that kind of stuff. Worry about that more this quarter than anything super important. That being said, after this quarter, you're going to have 4 more years of regular enrollment and things to worry about. Enrollment at UCSC uses a two-pass process. You're going to be given two enrollment appointments every quarter. The first of which you're going to be able to enroll in up to 14 credits, which is essentially two classes plus some change. Um, and you will not be able to waitlist during that first pass. So we get a lot of emails from students saying, "Oh my God, the class is full already, and it doesn't have a waitlist anymore." Um, I mean, the class is probably full, but it will have a waitlist. It just won't be accessible to you till your second pass. That being said, you will have a second pass enrollment appointment. During that time, you can enroll in a third class, and at that time, you can also waitlist in anything that you couldn't otherwise get a seat in during your first pass. Um, I will say that this is particularly true of our department. You're going to find that it's the classes that you want or feel like you need to take might fill up pretty quickly, especially during your first year here. Don't freak out too much. You can always wait list, plan to show up, see what happens. But you also have a lot of time to, catch up later. Things that I would potentially think about during the first couple of quarters, years, make sure you take a math placement exam so you know like if you need to take an extra math class here and there. Um, but otherwise, worry about your GEs, communicate with your college advisors about what those are and how to enroll in them, and think about your basic requirements for us. I'm kind of skipping ahead actually in terms of the slides, so let's go to the next one. Um, so this basically just has a lot of information. I would ask you, like, if you're curious about enrollment resources, come back to our slides that we've linked in the chat. There's information about key dates you're going to want to keep in mind. Every quarter we'll have an enrollment prep week that'll give you an opportunity to hopefully meet with somebody, can prepare in advance, see what courses are going to be offered, plan your schedule as best you can. You'll also you'll get your assigned enrollment appointment during that period of time. And some quarters there's going to be unique schedules depending on like whether you're if you have priority enrollment, you'll have a different enrollment appointment than others. If you're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you'll be given different enrollment appointments compared to others. Um, and you're going to want to know that. Best way to do is take advantage of these resources and see what's going on. We do provide some support or information rather specifically related to psychology, so find those resources. If you want to plan really far ahead, we do have a tentative course schedule, but emphasis on tentatives. Some courses get added, some courses get dropped depending on things that happen. We also have the course menu. So one of the things you're going to have to think about through most of your time here, if not all of your time here, is there's going to be a lot of free space on your schedule. You can maybe enroll in one or two major requirements each quarter, but you're still going to need to enroll full time in other stuff to keep up with your credit requirements. So you're going to want to find electives or GEs if you haven't finished those yet. We provide some resources related to that. Course menus is one of them. It organizes courses based on some of the common career goals that we get asked about. Basically, just related to that career. They're not required to pursue that career by any means, but we're just trying to organize things based on your interests. Otherwise, I would encourage you to sort of explore fun stuff. Think about what look at the course schedules in general and see what seems fun or interesting. Do you want to learn to draw? Do you want to learn to make Muppets? Do you want to spend a quarter reading Harry Potter? You can do that. That's totally fine. You need the credits anyway. It doesn't have to be related to your major. Skip ahead a little bit. So my UCSC. This is going to be a portal that you want to get used to. There's going to be a few different websites that you're going to have to get used to navigating. My UCSC is your primary resource for finding information about your academics. Right now, the big things you're going to want to look for or is your to-do list section. My UCSC has a student center, and this is what it looks like on the screen here. On the sidebar, you'll see the to-do list. If there's anything in there that you need to figure out, I would do it now because it may be preventing you from receiving an enrollment appointment, either now or in the future. A couple things that you have to have done already, ideally, is you should have completed your orientations 1 and 2 by now, and if you have, you should have been given an enrollment date, and you will see that in this window here under enrollment dates. At the very least, you can open up a link to that'll give you more detail as to what specific time that enrollment appointment is. Um, there's a few other resources on here, but if we go to the next slide, actually maybe not. I think that comes up a little later. But I'll show you in a second. There's a few more details on here, including a degree progress report that you can view through this window here. But going to the next slide, leave it here. Sorry, I'm just going to the next slide. We're going to talk about some academic plans. So there's a couple different resources for viewing what you have to do. There is your MyUCSC portal, which I've discussed before. There's going to be a thing called a degree progress report you can view to see sort of where you're at theoretically, and what you have left theoretically. And you're going to also have an academic plan that your major advisors will create for you. It's only going to have your major requirements on it. If you have multiple majors, you'd be working with multiple advisors to make sure it's updated on a regular basis. Um, it's your, I would argue it's your go-to guide as a reference for what you should expect to need to be doing. Probably slightly more accurate than the DPR. The DPR is automated and gets confused, whereas the academic plan is something that we personalize for you. And let's go ahead and take a look at one of them and go to the next slide. This is an intensive psychology academic plan. It has all the courses that you're eventually going to have to complete before you graduate, specifically for the intensive major. It does not include your GEs. It does not include the electives. You're going to want to fill this white space that you see on this plan with those things. You can ignore summer unless you really want to take classes during the summer, but you can expect to need to find a third class every quarter, um, to make sure you're staying on top of your credit requirements. So one thing that's been mentioned a few times already, this first fall quarter, you can see in the top left, there's nothing in it. We don't expect you to enroll in nothing, but we don't need you to enroll in any major requirements. Don't feel like you have to take Psych 1 or Stats or Calculus at all. I would emphasize that you should plan on taking the math placement exam if you have not already. This is going to be particularly true of cognitive science majors. In the case of psych, you have a little bit more wiggle room because you're only required to complete pre-calculus, and you could test out of it technically through the math placement exam. In the case of cog sci majors, which I'll show you their plan in a second, you are going to want to know whether you need to take Math 2, Math 3 first, and try to fit that in your schedule somehow. Um, uh, and you ultimately will need to take a calculus course regardless of how you place in the math placement exam. We've also got Right 2 put in here. It is the only GE that you're going to see on this plan. The reason we have it is because it is a prerequisite for Psych 100. And Psych 100 is probably the most important class you're going to take. It's going to be a prerequisite for just about every upper division course that follows. And there's no exceptions to taking it. It meets a GE requirement. It's going to set you up for success in all your future classes. And everybody requires it. There are a few extra lower division courses in here that have been mentioned before, Psych 20 and Psych 10. Notice that they're put in the third year. You may feel like you have to take them now, or next year. You don't. You can wait if you want to. If you find it difficult to enroll in them this year or next year, don't be surprised because honestly, you're not expected to get a seat in them until your junior year. If you can get a seat, by all means, do so. Be ahead of the game, but don't feel like you have to. Another thing I want to emphasize too is the statistics requirement. Um, Most things on here can be done kind of in any order you want, with the exception of like Psych 100 being a prerequisite to the upper division stuff that I mentioned. Um, there's a few options for statistics, one of which is Psych 2. Now you can just take tech, you can just take Stat 5 if you want to. You could take Stat 7 if you want to. They have no prerequisites and they meet the same requirement, cover the same material. Psych 2, however, is a course hosted by our office, or our department rather, and it does have some prerequisites. You're going to need Psych 1 and your pre-calculus completed beforehand. So keep that in mind when you're trying to choose classes. If you really want to take Psych 2 for some reason. If you feel like Psych 2 is full and you're freaking out, I need to get this done before the declaration deadline, well, then consider Stat 5 and Stat 7 because they're going to have more seats for starters, and second, you don't need the prerequisites. So, another thing I guess I'll just point out, if you are a general psych major, there's going to be a few requirements that you see on the screen here that aren't going to be required. The 2 independent studies aren't going to be required, and this methods requirement isn't going to be required. So you'll have a slightly lighter schedule in terms of your major requirements, but you're still going to need to fill this space with some electives of some kind to complete your overall credit requirements. And we can go ahead and take a look at the CogSci plan real quick. The only thing I would add as, again, a re-emphasis is that this calculus requirement, you're going to want to test sooner than later into it, whether you need to figure out whether you have to take algebra first, or you need to take pre-calculus first, or you can just straight up take calculus right away. You need to be able to know that sooner than later, so you can fit those extra courses in your schedule if it comes down to that. The only other thing I would keep in mind is you have a few extra requirements in general. You have the addition of a programming requirement for CogSci. Make sure you're finding time to fit that into your schedule these next couple of years. So you don't need Psych 1, but you do need Psych 20. It doesn't have any prerequisites, but try to fit it in your schedule. Don't freak out about it this first year. It's going to fill up probably, but make sure that you make it a priority next year for sure. And then again, I'll reemphasize the need for Right 2 by virtue of it being a prerequisite for Psych 100. There are a couple other things down here in the third and fourth year, which I would strongly, emphasize you don't need to worry about too much until then. But if you really wanted to, you could pursue your interdisciplinary electives early. We do organize them, or rather, there is a they are labeled with their GEs if they are relevant, if that's relevant to them. So you can maybe double up, so complete a GE and an interdisciplinary elective at the same time. It's just going to take some time for you to like browse the list of course options, what's actually available, and if it's a GE you need. Otherwise, don't worry about it. You're going to need these classes one way or the other, and there's going to be time during your last couple of years. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go to summer session real quick. This is just a sales pitch. Summer session's a great resource. If you feel like you're behind, if you want to get ahead, if you want to do a 30-year plan, I strongly recommend, if you're going to do a 3-year plan, you're going to have to do summer session. But either way, I strongly recommend considering summer session. There's going to be a few online options for our major that you may want to consider taking, just to give yourself some more freedom and wiggle room during the regular school year. And if you do fall behind, it's of course a great resource for you. If you can attend on campus, even more resources are going to be available to you. Courses that you couldn't otherwise enroll in early, like Psych 10 and 20, are going to be super easy to get into because most people can't attend physically in the summer. And that's going to be true of some of our upper division courses later on too. So take a look at the summer session website. Courses that are currently listed there from this last summer, or this current summer, are most likely going to be available in future summers with some exceptions. So that could give you a good idea as to what might be offered in the future too for planning purposes. So let's go to the degree progress report. This takes me back to the My UCSC portal that I mentioned before. Within that portal, there's a little drop down called Other Academic Information, and within it, there's a whole bunch of stuff. The one you want to worry about is the degree progress report option. And let's just go ahead and go to the next slide so we can see what that looks like. So this is an alternate version of your plan, essentially. This one is automated, so it's not personalized in any fashion, and it's not organized by a human being. So there might be inaccuracies. So don't freak out. Always double check with us before we worry about too much of it. But in theory, it should know when you've completed a requirement. It should check it off in green when you have. If you've enrolled in a requirement, we'll get to that in a second. It should highlight with a little yellow star, or I guess diamond. And if you still have a requirement to complete, there'll be a red X next to it. Something that's not on display here, you'll find that under the additional psych section, which is those 3 additional psych courses you have to take, it's going to show all the available options for you. and all of them are going to have red X's near them, it does not mean that you need to take all of those options. You just need to check off 3 of them. So don't be alarmed by all the red X's. They're scary, but it's really, again, just an automated system trying to do the best it can to project what you may or may not need based on what you've already completed. Okay. And let's go ahead and yeah, okay, I mentioned the little yellow diamond. So once you enroll in something, you'll see it here. This is super handy for us, especially when it comes time for graduation. We can just look at your DPR, and if all we see is yellow diamonds and a bunch of green check marks, we know you're about to be finished. So, and this is a good thing for you also to make sure like we've enrolled in something that's going to complete a requirement. If you thought it was going to complete a requirement and it doesn't appear here with a yellow diamond next to it, you may need to email us and say, hey, I thought this completed such and such requirement. And we'll either confirm or deny that that's the case. If necessary, we can update this manually as well. There's going to be some errors here and there, especially if you're double majoring, where things might be put into the wrong kind of slots, and we're going to want to manually come and fix it. So don't be afraid to reach out to us about that. Okay, and then I think I'm going to pass it back to Paige at this point. So thank you.
All right, me again. Okay, here we go. So we're going to move into some general campus resources, and we should have time at the end for some questions as well. So don't be shy if y'all want to unmute, even turn your camera on. Again, no pressure, but if you want to, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, we'll get into it here. So Becca and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth here, talking through some campus resources. So first is all of our libraries, but my favorite specifically is McHenry Library because it's so beautiful. 4 stories. This is kind of the central geographic place on our campus. If you've been to the campus, you know it's very spread out. It'll take us some time to figure out how to navigate. Once you get it, you get it. But geographically, this is kind of the center. And McHenry, I don't know how many hours I spent there. It would probably scare you if I told you the amount. But what I would do, I would get there at opening time, write my papers, stay there all day. They have a cafe inside, so I didn't have to leave to get food. So I can get all my papers done, all my homework done. And it's 4 stories in the middle of the dense redwood forest, right? So the higher you go, kind of the unspoken rule, the quieter it gets. So if you're kind of more of a social person, you're fine with noise when you're studying, and that helps you. First floor is great with the cafe. That's very noisy. If you go all the way up to the 4th floor, that's like creepy quiet. That's where I go to write my papers because I need complete silence to channel my creativity. So we also have study rooms you can rent, or not, you can reserve, not rent, that you can reserve on their website. And that's really nice because that can be used for group projects. You can also reserve it just for yourself, for studying for midterms, finals, and also many clubs reserve them as well for their usual club meetings, which is nice. So this is a really great spot. I recommend checking it out if once you move into campus and you're feeling a little restless, maybe a little homesick, like take a walk over to McHenry. A lot of the pictures throughout the presentations were literally the trail to McHenry, and it's pretty unbelievable the trails you get to walk on our campus. So that's McHenry, and I'll pass it to Becca for the next one here.
Okay, so another service we encourage you to take advantage of is Learning Support Services, which is also referred to as LSS. We love our acronyms on this campus. LSS offers one-on-one tutoring and small group tutoring, and there's also a writing center where trained students can help you like revise your papers and provide feedback. So in general, this service also provides really helpful study tips depending on the course you're taking. So if you're at all worried about a class or think you might become worried about a class or just want some support, we definitely recommend checking out LSS.
Agreed. Yes, I used LSS when I was a student, when I took statistics, because as a literature and education student, that was not my strong suit. And I attribute their services to my success in that course. So I can't emphasize enough, I'll go to the next slide here, but I can't emphasize enough. You do not have to somehow know how to do everything when you go to college. That's a big part of college, is figuring out how to do stuff on your own. But also, there's a lot of people at your disposal to help you. So you shouldn't be expected to do everything on your own. That's unrealistic. I set some pretty unrealistic expectations for myself. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, I don't need tutoring. I'm in college. Like I had these strange expectations I put on myself, and I quickly realized that's not the reality. And there's people that are literally trained to help you. You can even become an LSS tutor as a student job. If you've been successful in a course, you can pursue that as an employment opportunity, to work with students that may be struggling in a course that you succeeded in. So that's great too. And then next we'll go to Disability Resource Center, DRC, another acronym. You can start making a list. Pretty much everything's an acronym. So this one's really close to my heart. Disability Resource Center serves a lot of our students and our staff on campus. And this is for students with disabilities. These can be physical disabilities, mental, behavioral, everything in between, and they provide accommodations. So these accommodations are a wide range, right? So for me, I'm very open about the fact that I have OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So when I came into UCSC, I knew it was important for me to have those set up. But I do want to emphasize that many people don't know that that's an important thing they need to set up, or they just think I'll be fine, and I don't need those. I was kind of resistant to it at first. But if you can get these set up the summer before you start, I highly, highly encourage it because unfortunately we have so many students that need these accommodations, they get very backed up. So if you're like, if it springs to mind, like, hey, I'm looking at this website and some of these come to mind, like, hey, this applies to me, reach out to them. They're a great group of staff over there and they can get you set up with those accommodations because it does require, um, connecting with your medical people, sending some documents over, those types of things to get those set up. And those include things like extra testing time. I had that. I took out my accommodations in statistics, right? When I was really having a lot of anxiety in a huge lecture hall, right? There's our disability van that drives students to where they need to be on campus. We have alternative testing spaces. This is if a large lecture hall is triggering or anxiety producing for you and everything in between. So definitely check out the DRC.
Okay, next, if you're an Equal Opportunity Program student, which is also known as EOP, you have access to EOP services, which provide you with resources to achieve personal and academic goals while you're at UCSC. So these resources include peer mentors, a textbook access program, a wellness program, and a lot of other things. I believe they have like free printing, possibly a food pantry as well. And if you'd like to see if you're eligible for EOP, they have an eligibility page on their website, so I encourage you to go to that and see if you can access their resources.
So next up, this is kind of a big entity on campus, but basic needs. So basic needs encapsulates a lot of different things on our campus, but it is a hub for food, housing, health, wellness, and financial security. So that's a wide range of things. So the main kind of overarching theme of basic needs is emphasizing the idea that if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, if you're having health concerns, if you're having pretty acute, severe financial concerns, expecting you to do well in a class is not fair, right? Like if you're sitting in Psych 1 and you're concerned about paying for food, right? These are real issues some students face. So basic needs is a hub, especially you can go within there is slug support. So that's some emergency services as well, emergency housing, things like that. But we do have food pantries all over campus, which is super cool. And you don't have to have a certain like eligibility to use that resource. You could go to any of our food pantries and take the allotted that they provide, right? Fresh produce, canned goods, things like that.
So, counseling and psychological services, also known as CAPS, provides students with mental health and wellness services. CAPS also provides preventative outreach and consultation services, and they offer all kinds of different sessions. So there's individual counseling, group counseling, short-term counseling, long-term counseling, drop-in session, crisis assistance, a mobile crisis team that can meet you where you're at, and a lot of other resources as well. So their CAPS is available to any registered UCSC student, and they provide confidential resources. And yeah, so we encourage you to utilize CAPS if you need support in any way. They are incredible. You can meet with a like licensed professional or a peer, depending on, what you need and what's most comfortable to you. They offer, I cannot emphasize enough, a ton of different resources. So anytime you need support, CAPS is there for you.
Absolutely. And I also used CAPS. So I'm just throwing it out there that they have a really welcoming space. So you can just go and check out their main front lobby space. They have massage chairs. It's really nice. And you can also be a CAPS peer educator. That's something I did when I was a student. So It's only a small amount of students, but you can apply for that and go through the interview process, and you can host wellness workshops on campus for students, workshops on like how to help a friend in a mental health crisis, suicide prevention, and a lot of clubs will request those trainings, right? So a club may come to the CAPS peer education team and say like, hey, we really want to teach our members about how to help a friend in a mental health crisis, right? And CAPS peer education will put on those workshops. Awesome. So I'll kind of finish up here with some kind of overall department information. Thank you all for bearing with us. I know it's a lot of information. Again, the purpose of this is not to remember all of this. It's just to, first of all, meet us. You'll get to meet us in person during Welcome Week, but we want you all just to have a warm welcome. So don't feel like if you're like, oh my God, like, wait, what did I need in a Psych 1? What's the grade requirement? Like we can go over that stuff again in meetings with you all. So don't feel too stressed about that. So here we are again. Here's the screenshots of our faces. So you can schedule one-on-one appointments with us. Some of you have already. If you haven't, don't feel like you absolutely need to or you're behind on something. But we have a lot of availability over the summer, especially. So schedule an appointment with us. We all have our own appointment days, but we can accommodate additional appointment times. So you can see on the left, there's a direct link, not in the screenshot, but that's how you schedule an appointment with me. So mine are on Thursdays as well as Ryan's. Becca hosts her appointments on Mondays and Julia hosts them on Tuesdays. You can see that alpha split with your last name. So A through FA last names, you can meet with me, but you can meet with any of us. So don't feel like if my availability doesn't work, like, okay, I guess I can't do advising. You can meet with any of us. This is just a screenshot of what our drop-in calendar looks like. So over the summer, we have those Monday through Wednesday, 9 to 11, 2 to 4. And then come fall, our peer advisors take over those drop-in hours. And those are from Monday to Thursday, 9 to 12 and 1 to 4. So a lot of hours where you can get some advising if all of our appointments are booked up. I encourage you to reach out to SciEDV. That's our staff email. SciPeer isn't active right now. Our peers don't work over the summer, but SciEDV is your best friend because myself and all of my other colleagues here receive the same email. So if it's a more complicated situation, we can brainstorm, but we do get back to you all pretty quickly. And there's Sammy the Slug in the middle, if you didn't notice. Okay. Awesome. So our office location, we're at Social Sciences 2, room 150. Our building is literally like framed with a redwood forest as per the picture there. So beautiful setting. You go up one flight of stairs and we're right to the right of that. And we have a big banner, so it's hard to miss. However, Social Sciences 1 and 2 look identical and the signage could be better. So if you go into Social Sciences 1 on accident, don't worry, we're right across the way. And our office hours, we work remotely over the summer, but come fall, our hours are the same, but we're remote right now. But come fall, it's 9 to 12 and 1 to 4. And there's always going to be at least one staff person in the office, usually at least 2 or 3. So our schedule is rotating a little bit. We are hybrid, but we're always going to be in the office during the academic year. This is, again, kind of a recap of things we recommend. I just want to point out the picture on the right, on the left, that is a common occurrence on our campus is deer just walking around like people, basically. They don't really care we're here. So just seeing wildlife as a common occurrence. On the right, that was a hawk just sitting on a campus sign, just chilling out. So these are common occurrences on our campus, which is cool. So just some reminders, please read your email, please read your email, please read your email. If you read your email, that's probably why you're here today. So good job. I can't emphasize enough, that's really the only main form of communication in college. You should be checking your UCSC email more than once a day. And we also don't want you all to email us from your personal emails. That's for a security reason, but also for professional reasons. We don't really want to respond to, I love bunnies26@gmail.com, right? We want to respond to your student email for security reasons as well. We have our departmental newsletter every quarter that my colleague Ryan works on. So check that out. That's kind of an overview of the whole quarter. LinkedIn here is our events and deadlines page. This is where we'll upload the recordings of the session. Please meet with us. That's our job. We love meeting with students. We love answering questions. Please go to class. Seems obvious, but go to class, talk to your professors, go to your TA's office hours. TAs are teaching assistants. So if you've been adding things to your shopping cart, you may have noticed things called discussion sections, and TAs are the instructors for those. So office hours our instructors are literally required to sit in a designated location for a specific amount of hours every week to answer questions. And it's very underutilized. I mean, my professors often told me they were very lonely because no one ever came. I mean, these people are going to know the answers to your questions. They're the ones that assign the paper you're writing. So if you're like, I have no idea what this professor is asking in this prompt, like, what does this even mean? Go to them and ask. That's also a great way to network with them. If you just want to say like, hey, I don't really have any questions, but I just wanted to introduce myself, right? I recommend doing that on the first day of class. It can be intimidating. But after class or before to say like, hi, my name is Paige. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm looking forward to the class. And please follow our Instagram. You may have seen the info session reminder on there as well. But myself and my colleagues and our peer advising team post pretty regularly on that account. Oh, here we are again. Follow us on Instagram. There's a lot of pictures of us. We all love each other like a family. Okay. And then I'll run through a couple things here. We also do an Instagram series called Wellness Wednesday. And we do this every Wednesday during the regular academic year where all the staff and all of our peer advisors pick a wellness tip and do an Instagram story about it. So this was about volunteering as a form of wellness that I did a few quarters ago. And this is our Seymour Center over at our Coastal Sciences campus. So this is a regular series we do just to connect with our students and remind you all that y'all are people too, and take care of yourself, right? And then this is LinkedIn. Lola is a former peer advisor who has since graduated, but she did create a presentation with a bunch of resources specific to incoming frosh because it can be intimidating. Move in, what the heck do I bring to my dorm? Homesickness, all these very real things, right? So I recommend checking that out. Awesome. So we have a few minutes here. Here's us again. Advisors love questions. I'm going to get out of the presentation really quick, so bear with me. All right. So does anyone have any questions? Don't be shy. Also, don't feel like you have to like craft a question on the fly if you actually don't have one. But we do have a few minutes here if anyone has any questions. Let's see. I know we had some in the chat. Looks like we had some questions about finishing orientation, but they're not sure about their enrollment appointment. Let's see. From what I've been told, you all should be getting it like at the latest today, the 28th. However, if you're still not seeing it, reach out to the orientation office if there's an issue with one of the modules or things like that. But if you're noticing in the next couple of days that it's still not there, you can reach out to us and we can kind of troubleshoot. But as Julia mentioned, you all will be enrolling the week of Monday, August 7th through the 10th. So you'll have an appointment sometime during that time frame.
Also, often when you're told you're going to receive like certain information on a certain date, sometimes that information will come in the afternoon. So, if you are expecting to receive an enrollment appointment today, there's a chance that'll come at like 1 p.m. or 3 p.m. So just keep checking throughout the day.
Okay, here's our advising assistant. Okay, I did get a direct message from Amy. So is the enrollment appointment a Zoom meeting? Good question. So it's not an actual meeting. I know that the language doesn't really make sense. The enrollment appointment is literally a date and time in which you can enroll in the system. So I don't know who's played around with the shopping cart, but I encourage you to try that out because that's where you'll enroll from. So literally it will say something like, Amy, your appointment is, I'm just making this up, August 8th at 10:30 a.m. So literally as soon as it hits 10:30 on that date, you can enroll from your shopping cart. So you can pick your 3 courses. I recommend dumping a bunch of backups in there. Not to scare you all, but I was one of those students who came to orientation with 7 backup schedules prepared and none of them worked because things fill up. That's not to scare you. And here I am, 7 years later, post grad. So everything works out. But do have some backups in mind. And again, GEs are going to be your best friend. So it's not a meeting. However, you can certainly schedule a meeting with us in advance to discuss enrollment. But no, it's not like something you're attending. It's something you're doing like on your computer. And yeah, there's a lot of questions about the ALEKS scoring, which, as Becca said, is very confusing. Doesn't really make sense. They give you a score, which then you have to translate into a different scoring system. We're not clear why they do that. Yeah, so you get like a something below 100 or something, and then that equates to like a 300. So it's very confusing. So if you're ever confused about that, reach out. Let's see.
Sorry, and to expand on that real quick, Jet, to further answer your question, the ALEKS, as Julia said, the ALEKS placement assessment doesn't allow you to test out of the MFGE, which is like mathematical formations or something like that. Or anyway, um, but you don't have to take an like explicit math course to fulfill the GE. Like there's a lot of linguistics courses and philosophy courses and like natural science courses that also fulfill that math GE. So you don't have to like test out a pre-calculus and then take pre-calculus to fulfill the GE. You could get a little more creative with the class that you use to fulfill the GE. So just so you know that you don't have to then take like calculus or something like that to fulfill the GE.
Definitely. And then I know we're a little bit over time here. One more thing I'll mention. I've seen some questions about test credit, transfer credit. One, make sure you send those transcripts. They won't really reflect in the degree progress report tool that Ryan went over for a while. Like right now, the DPR is going to be, it's going to have a bunch of red X's all over the place. It won't really properly reflect. However, if you know, like, oh, I got a 4 on my AP Psych exam, send those scores if you haven't already, but also know that, okay, well, I don't need to enroll in Psych 1, right? But there has been some questions specifically. I know some of you may have a lot of transfer credit coming in from community college. You may have a lot of your GEs done, possibly. If you haven't, you're not behind, don't worry. But this is something students come in with. So if you're confused, like, hey, like, which GEs have I done? Which ones have I not done? I recommend just emailing us and your college advisors, and we can take a closer look at your transcripts because it's a little bit hard to answer here. But we can delve into that a little bit more specifically. But the most important thing is to make sure you've sent everything. Even if it's some random one course you took at a community college 5 years ago, you're required to send everything. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I know we're over time today. Again, please email SciEDV. That's the email we check all day. We'll also have drop-in advising tomorrow. So you can check out the advising calendar. I just want to thank you all for coming this morning. I know it was kind of early in the morning, but we're super excited to have you all. And I was a frosh back in fall of 2017, which feels like a long time ago. But we're super excited and excited to connect with you all. And please reach out anytime. There'll be more information to come about our Welcome Week presentation. That's the week before you move in, and we'll have an in-person presentation where you can meet a bunch of other proposed Psych and Cog Sci students. And my advising assistant is here to say goodbye to you all. But thank you all for attending today. Please reach out anytime. And we're super excited for you. Congrats and welcome to UCSC.